So thank you everyone for coming. Welcome to the Trent Advantage live stream series. We are thrilled to have you join us for the first session of this exciting series. We're starting with a deep dive into our Bachelor of Education program here at Trent. My name is Caitlin, and I am the Education Admissions Officer here. I will be the moderator for tonight's session. But before we get started, like just to take a moment to acknowledge the land. We respectfully acknowledge that Trent University is located on the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. May we offer our gratitude to the First Nations for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. So I'm not sure if you can see behind me, but well, behind many of our panelists here, we have pictures of the beautiful Trent landscape. In my picture behind me, we have Champlain College, and you get a little bit of a glimpse of the Otonabee River. In Carla's picture, you have a little bit of a better glimpse. And I just like to say that I am grateful to be able to work on a campus that has such respect for the land. And it's so cool to see how Trent community interacts with the river, how nature interacts with the river. And I'm just very grateful for that. And I hope you all get to bear witness to our beautiful campus at some point as well. So joining us this evening from the School of Education, we have Adrian Ash, who is our School of Education Program Manager. Hi, Adrian. We have Carla Wagner, who is our B.Ed Program Coordinator. Hi, Carla. And we have Rich McPherson, who is our Knowledge Mobilization Education Coordinator. Hi, Rich. Each of our panelists brings a wealth of knowledge and experiences within our program and in the field of education, and they are very excited to share their insights into what makes the B.Ed program at Trent truly exceptional. So thank you to our panelists for being here tonight. We also have Chloe Armstrong here from recruitment, from our recruitment department, to help us navigate the online platform. So she might be popping into the chat as well if you see Chloe's name. To give you an idea of tonight's format, I will begin the session by asking our panel of experts a series of commonly asked questions about our B.Ed program. And after that, we will have the chance to open up the floor to any questions you have. You are more than welcome, though, to submit your questions at any time using the Q&A feature. It's at the bottom of the screen there. And we'll do our best to get to these questions either throughout or at the end when we wrap up. During the session, you should also be able to access a live transcript at any point by clicking the closed caption button at the bottom of your screen as well, if you'd like to. Alrighty, so with all that housekeeping, let's get started. We are going to start our first question with Carla. Thank you for joining us. Carla, can you please give us a brief overview of the Bachelor of Education program and what it entails?
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. So the Bachelor of Education program is a 2-year program. It consists of 4 academic semesters, and within that time, 4 practice teaching blocks. Our program gives you the pedagogical background through in-class learning and practicum placements to prepare you for the world of teaching. We have different things that are built into our program to have our candidates be successful. And one of the things we do is we welcome our first-year teacher candidates to a week of foundational learning before courses actually start. And during that time, we orient you to our campus and to our program. And we also include some professional learning that's necessary before you start in our program. Our academic term is pretty intense. It's 9 weeks. It's a compressed session. And following our fall session, we have a week of professional events. And then teacher candidates embark on a 4-week practicum placement. And in that first placement, they're supporting learners in a grade placement within their division. So when you apply, you're applying to primary junior, which is K to 6, or intermediate senior, which is grade 7 through 12. That's followed by our December break. And when students return to us in January, we have another academic term of 9 weeks. and followed by another week of professional learning, and then a 5 week teaching placement where you're in a class, associate teacher is guiding you through your learning and your practice. And our students in year one and year two end the end of April. And with our first years, it allows them an opportunity to complete an alternative setting placement and also gives a chance to work through the end of August. An exciting piece of our program when students return at the beginning of year two, we don't have a foundation week, but instead you're placed in a school. So that first week, you're with an associate teacher to experience what the beginning of school is like, to see that start up, what processes you get to observe and be part of it, and see what actually happens in a school that first week. And then it starts again, a 9 week academic um, session term, and then a 4 week placement. And in January, again, 9 weeks, and then a 5 week for a final teaching placement, and convocations in June. So, kind of a quick and dirty of all the things that happen, but the idea is to prepare you for the teaching world.
Fabulous. Thank you, Carla. Okay, so right off the hop into our second question. This is for Adrian. Adrian, what are some of the unique qualities about the education program at Trent?
Okay, thanks for that, Caitlin. So I've got basically two answers to this question, really two parts to my answer to this question. The first is to say what we will often discuss when we're asked about sort of the unique aspects of the program is to talk about the kind of the three core, what I would consider themes in the program that are really, core parts of the character of the program. That is to say, a focus on Indigenous education, Indigenous themes in education, a focus on social justice and the principles related to that in terms of how they will apply to your classroom, your teaching, and then also environmental and eco-justice themes in education, and again how those would play out in terms of the school situation and your role in teaching. So that's the immediate answer. I would say my kind of second level answer to that is that I feel like over the years I have seen more and more universities citing these different areas and sounding very similar in terms of the kinds of things they're citing. And I think from our perspective, just speaking very candidly here as a representative of Trent, I've been with this program for almost 20 years now, and we have been focused on these issues since the very founding of our program almost 23 years ago, I think it is now. And that was not a time, honestly, where you saw that across the board, being represented by so many different parties around the province. And I feel like that distinction is important because it speaks to the authenticity with which Trent engages with these different areas. That it is really at a core aspect, a core part of the very founding nature of our program, and infuses itself through a lot of what we do, and in sometimes ways you wouldn't even expect. So I think that really is, in a sense, to me, that second part is almost the more important aspect because it does speak to the long-term ethos of our program, and the feedback we've gotten from our community partners, from previous teacher candidates, really is they see the quality with which those aspects are engaged and the authenticity with which they're engaged. I think that is the core thing, more so than just speaking a cliche about, yeah, these are the areas we address. They're addressed with an authenticity and a realness that I think you will really feel as you come through the program.
Thanks, Adrian. That sounds pretty great. Now we're going to go over to Rich. Rich, hands-on and career-related experience is so important in any program. Can you please tell us about the experiential learning and placement opportunities within our B.Ed program? And do students get real in-class experience? And how do they participate in these experiences?
Well, yes, yes, and yes to all of that. It's a B.Ed program. It should be hands-on, and it is very much hands-on when you enter in this program. as Carla outlined, just going through the different parts of the academic year when you're here, is you have up to 90 days that you're spending in the classroom, and that very much is that experiential learning, and being out on those placements, and that's where you're really putting together that theory that you get in those kind of first 9 weeks of course content, and then you're applying that into your practice, in that first block. And so the program itself is like I said, very hands-on. It's all about that experience in the classroom. That's where you really start to get a taste of what it's like to be in schools, work with all different types of learners, all different types of teachers, administrators, and really get to get the feel for what that is, showing up for the kids every day. And so that's a great aspect of it. But even within that, the program itself is extremely collaborative. Our talking about, everyone talked about different aspects of things, and being on this wonderful campus, we're outside a lot. And we're, a lot of our instructors, we're educators. We love to have fun. We love to get outdoors. We like to be flexible and enthusiastic about what we're doing. And so, because we've all been there, many of us have taught in the classroom, and so it's one big community, and we get to work together. And I know some people like, oh, collaboration. Sometimes they don't work well with people, and that's fine. But when you come into the program, you start to understand what collaboration should really look like, and how you can be successful in that, with the peers and ultimately friends that you will make in this program immediately. And so all of that together is, it's a highly active program. It's intensive, like Carla has said, and but really, when it comes down to it, it's that piece of actually practicing in the classroom that gives you the tools that you need, and to figure out what kind of teacher you're going to be, going forward. And you have 4 different blocks to do that over the course of 2 years. So there's a lot of time to come back and reflect and see how you want to approach something, when you go back at it. So that's all I'll say about that. Yes.
Thanks, Rich. That sounds intensive, but very intentionally so. Adrian, can I apply to both primary, junior, and intermediate senior, or do I need to choose just one of those when applying? What do you recommend?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and I think I guess I must be in an annoying mood tonight because I'm going to break the rules again and not follow exactly as the question is. So first, I'll address what the as the question is asked. Yes, you can apply to both primary, junior, and intermediate senior at the same time, and we will consider you for both of those. And if you are offered simultaneously to both, and then you could choose between those two at the time that your admission to the program is made. You would need to choose very clearly at that time when you're accepting your offer. If you're accepted to both, you would need to let us know exactly which one you're accepting, and then you can't change after that. You can't sort of continue to go back and forth between the two. It's then locked in absolutely. So, but even in the process as well, one of the reasons that you might consider that would be the fact that primary junior in a given year might accept you and intermediate senior might not, or the other way around. It's not like one is above the other. It's just that your particular application might be viewed as stronger for one or the other in a given year. So that is why some people sometimes do that. But the bonus question I'm going to ask here, I'm add to what you asked, Caitlin, is not just can you apply to both, but should you apply to both primary, junior, and intermediate, senior? And my answer to that one is be careful there, please. Don't make that decision to apply to both strictly on the fact that you're trying to give yourself the best odds possible. We've seen some individuals do that, and they don't want the other one they've added. They had in their mind one or the other, and that's what they've always wanted. That's how they picture themselves as future teachers. But then oh well, I want to be in teaching so badly. I need to be in this now. Therefore, I'm going to add the other level. that can lead to bad things. It leads to the odd time we've had teacher candidate in the program who's not committed to the level that they're in, and they share that around and they tell their host teachers, for example, and the host teachers are saying, "Why is this person in my classroom?" when they don't want to be. So, you can see how that would lead down the road to an unfortunate situation and can become actually quite serious. If so, so you can avoid all of that by simply making sure don't add an extra thing to your application if you're not committed to that. If you're genuinely equally enthusiastic about both levels and you share that passion for education, either at the primary junior level or intermediate senior, fantastic. If you've got the qualifications like the prerequisites for intermediate senior as well as the interest in primary junior, then sure you can apply to both, but only if you have that commitment, desire, and passion for teaching at equally at both levels. Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian. That's really good advice. Carla, we're going to go over to you next. What are the career prospects like for teachers right now?
So education has been on an ebb and a flow, interesting times, but our teacher candidates are getting work. The idea of being an occasional teacher, a supply teacher, that tends to be the most popular that happens when they graduate. But also having LTOs, we do have teacher candidates that are securing permanent positions. And we also have teacher candidates that also um, don't use it in a classroom setting. Sometimes people are looking at working in museums or art galleries, and the B.Ed is a wonderful tool to be able to do that. We also have some people that use it in human resources type of situation. But with regard to teaching, there are jobs, and teacher candidates have been successful in securing work. And I had um, a reference check from a school board today on a former teacher candidate. So that it could be the shift from doing supply work to be doing a long-term occasional. So it's good timing.
Thanks, Carla. That sounds great. Rich, your last question. Why study at the School of Education? We've kind of touched on this, but if you have anything more to add, that would be fabulous.
Why? No, it's you know what? Yes, yes, everyone could, say we're biased because we're here tonight saying why come to Trent. It's simply for me, for someone who I did our B.Ed program just over 17 years ago, and as someone who didn't look for the residence life. I lived off campus with friends, and I wasn't looking for that in my during my undergrad and necessarily meeting lots of people and doing that. I was content. And when I came into a B.Ed program, that's when even though I had spent 4 years at Trent doing my undergrad, when I came into the B.Ed, that's when I sort of really clicked for me, and being with just like-minded folks that were all there for the same reason, and it kind of flipped the way I saw things, flipped the way I saw Trent, and just through the relationships that I was able to build with people, and that feeling of support that I have seen now that I'm an instructor, and I've seen that just constantly grow over time, and just become more of a big, happier family. And so, I tell a lot of folks that it's one of those places, and you see it when people come from larger universities and they come into our program. It's for the first time ever they feel seen, they feel heard. You get to know your instructors, your peers, their lives. We share a lot together. You're doing a lot of good work with each other, a lot of hard work, but a lot of fun work. And again, it's that feeling of support, never feeling like You're alone in the program, and the program itself is set up in a way that guides you every step of the way. You do your courses, you go on practicum, and then or you do the professional events week. You get little pieces from all the different organizations you're going to be tied to when you are in that career, and you come back and you do some more theoretical work, and then you do more practice teaching, and then again that more connecting the dots. And by the time you get into your second year and you're going to be on your way out, you start looking at, what do I need to apply to jobs? What do I need for interviews? And we provide that for you. And I think that that's a real benefit. And not to say other schools don't provide those things to their students, but I think in the setting that we have with the size and the community that we build, it makes it certainly something that's very special. And I think that even for those, when we talk to our associate teachers who came through our program 20 years ago and they're out there teaching, they still very much so reminisce about their days being at Trent and really enjoying their time. And again, what's not to like about being on this campus? Even when it's snowing and quite cold, we do try and get out and utilize those spaces. And it's great to be out in the teepee. We have a teepee right in the back of our where all of our classrooms and our hallways are, and we get out there a ton. Classes are out there learning in our TP and in those open spaces. Carla, please chime in.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at a question and I apologize, I didn't mean to be confusing. There are definitely jobs for teachers in classrooms, in school boards, across Ontario and outside. I was just trying to share that there are people that use this degree in other ways, in case some of you are those people thinking that. The way the government has things set now, our year two teacher candidates are actually, with a transitional certificate, are able to do some supply teaching. And a number of my students are already supply teaching like 1 day a week right now, in their second year of study. So there are definitely jobs out there. It's not like a number of years ago where people were waiting on lists for years to get to that point for permanency. There's definitely those steps. You asked for rate. I don't have those numbers. I'm not sure if anyone else does, but I hope that helps clear up any confusion. My apologies.
And I'll piggyback on that too, in that even prior to, so COVID was an interesting time because that disrupted a lot of things for a lot of different sectors. And but even before that, the numbers that come down from the Ontario College of Teachers, who will be certifying you as an educator once you're completing any program, the numbers were already on the rise in terms of people getting jobs, especially those who are in the sciences and mathematics. Those were as high as 80% of those individuals were coming out with full-time work as soon as they graduated, and that was like 7 years ago. And even for those who are in the primary junior level, there's a lot more of those opportunities out there and a lot more people in that stream. That was even as high as 65% were coming out immediately with full-time work. And so a lot of those numbers have grown over time. And there's definitely definitely a ton of opportunity, all over Ontario and especially across Canada. So something to, not concern yourself with too much at this point, because it's been quite in need for some time. Outside of that, yeah, Trent is wonderful. We'll wrap it back to that.
Thanks, Rich. Okay, so the program is wonderful, and now everyone wants to know how to apply and what we're looking for. So I'll handle the next question. What are the admission requirements? And we do have a few questions in the Q&A that I'll try to tackle in my response here. So all applications to our Bachelor of Education program need to be submitted through the TEAS website, the TEAS website. This is a platform within the OYAC website specifically for the teacher education program. So the application must go through there. Once we have your application for admission, we are looking for a few different things. The first being the completion of an undergraduate degree. So we're looking to see that you've either completed your undergraduate degree or that you are on track to complete this degree within the current academic year. We are looking for a minimum 70% in your last 10 credits completed at the time of application. Application being right now in fall term. So the last 10 credits for most applicants are their last 2 years of completed studies. So for example, many applicants are in their fourth and final year of their program. Their last 10 credits are typically their second and third year. And that's where we pull your GPA from. There was a question about what the GPA cutoff is. So we don't necessarily have a strict GPA cutoff because if the minimum GPA is met, admission is based equally on grades and experience, with the experience being demonstrated through a document called the Profile of Experience. So they both are worth 50% of the score. I will say most applicants have GPAs in the 80 to 90 range, but there are quite a few applicants each year who are able to get into the program, who are between the 70 and 80 range. Because they have such strong experience, it's a balancing act of those two. Both of those components are very important in how we assess our teachers. So there's no strict GPA cutoff. I hope that answers that question. Yeah, so in addition to that, if you are applying to intermediate senior, we would also be looking to ensure that you've met the requirements of 2 teaching subjects. And this just entails having 5 credits in your first teaching subject and 3 credits in your second. Unless your second is French, then you would need 4 credits. But if you're applying to primary junior, then you don't need to worry about any specific course requirements because you don't have to declare any teaching subjects. You simply just have to meet those general requirements of GPA and experience and be on track to complete your degree to be considered. So like I said, admissions is based equally on academics and experience. To demonstrate this, you'll submit the mandatory document called the Profile of Experience. This becomes available on My Trent. My Trent is a portal you will activate after you've submitted the initial TEAS application, a few days after submitting that application. So it's something that you have to do after you get everything in. It's not something you can really start ahead of time unless you've got that initial application in. For admission questions, application questions, I strongly recommend you visit our B.Ed admissions webpage because within the B.Ed admissions webpage, we have a document called the B.Ed Applicant Handbook that Rich has put together for us. It's a great guide that will walk you through the entire application process. From applying on TEAS to completing the Profile of Experience. It'll walk you through all the steps, the timeline, everything is in the handbook, and it's really useful. Just looking at
I can jump in and answer some of these.
Yeah.
And thinking about, looking in terms of your experience and what you want to put into that profile. Or, if I submit early, do I have a better chance? Or there's no, so once we read profiles, once they come in, they go through a whole process all at the same time. And they're being read by multiple folks. So there's no, to the question of, while I don't have an experience that necessarily, I don't have many experiences. Maybe you have 1 or 2 experiences, and because you don't have that chance to go and volunteer, and you've just made the decision to apply to a B.Ed program. Those are things where you think about life experiences. You think about jobs where potentially you use some skills that you think that could be applied to a classroom or the education field, like planning or training or working with a group of people and managing them. And there's so because when we do read those applications, I'm not, I don't know what your grade is once you pass that first step of when you apply. And so we're really looking at the application, holistically, and it's how you're able to really sort of take those experiences, and some of them could be life experiences that you've had, that you think really apply to that critical reflection piece, that you're able to connect those pieces. And you might not have an experience that connects, but you have a really good reflection and are able to articulate why you are going to make change in the classroom and be someone who is really going to make an impact. And I say that because we have multiple readers, so they look for different things, and so we get all different sort of perspectives when we are looking over the application. So don't feel like, well, I don't do this and do so I can't apply. I'm not going to have a shot. Apply, do the best you can with those questions, with those experiences. If you have to dig deep for some of those, dig deep, because you just never know how some of those things, might apply in the classroom setting. So I hope that that answers some of those pieces for you. And there's no interview. There's no interview for these applications, so I'll just answer that one real quick too.
Nice. Okay. There was another question about references. I did see it. I lost it. Sorry if it's already been answered in the chat. We do ask for the contact information for two references. This is a part of the profile application form. So we just ask for their name, how you know them, how long you've worked with them, and then we ask for their email. And then once the application closes in December, we will send all of the references an email with an online questionnaire, asking them to speak to the experiences that you've listed in your profile. Okay, so this segues into our last question, and Rich has kind of answered it, but I think we kind of also touched on most of the questions about it in the chat. But Adrian, do you have anything to add about experience with it being weighted as 50% of the admission assessment? Would you say anything to add about what makes an applicant's profile stand out?
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, yeah, Rich gave a really good context for that answer. If you keep some of those thoughts in mind, I mean, he spoke to what really kind of the dynamic of our program is, and how that plays out in terms of the actual profile is don't think about it as a checklist. If you're asking yourself questions like, what actual content should be on there, how many experiences are we looking for, what's the actual, what are good experiences or bad experiences, and what's going to get me kind of ruled out from Trent or potentially included, what's the inside scoop there? Those are the wrong questions to be asking for Trent. We are a people-driven program. We're caring about community. We're caring about relationships. So how does that play out? It means that it really candid way, honestly, I would say which experiences you cite, as long as they've, if you have experiences that do have a legitimate, educational basis to them, they can be so many different things. And again, my candid answer on that is it doesn't really matter what it is. The key bit for Trent, the right question to be asking for Trent is how should I speak about those experiences? How do those experiences inform who you are as a developing educator? And what have they helped you to understand better about yourself as you think ahead to your career in teaching? And if you're able to tell us about those pieces, that I talked about authenticity earlier on the other side from the program's point of view, but that then flips it around and that tells us about your authenticity. If we are hearing an applicant to the program who really does sound like they're sincerely trying to, query themselves in their own practice in terms of looking at themselves in a, still with confidence, but in a self-reflective way, able to be open to taking on new ideas and new learning, that will seem much more authentic to us when we're reading it, and that authenticity matters for us. But if it's just a kind of a sense of, oh, well, these are the experiences I've had. You can have fantastic experiences. I know there was somebody asking in the questions about, experiences as an educational assistant or you spoke to time in Quebec. Fantastic. Those are great things to be doing. But again, through that lens of asking yourselves, not just, what those are, the additional piece is how have they informed your development, your reflection on yourself as a developing teacher. So those might be great things, but it's not enough. The secondary question is a much more important one. How have they influenced you? What have they told you about yourself as a developing teacher?
Okay, thanks, Adrian. There was another question in here about recommendation letters. So we don't accept recommendation letters. All we ask is for the contact information of your references, and we'll reach out through them to them through that online survey.
There's a few questions that have been sitting about residents.
Yes.
I know it is open to B.Ed students. I've had B.Ed students in there, but do you know the ins and outs of that in terms of our B.Ed students? Can they be put together? Or yeah, you
Absolutely. So, in terms of residents, B.Ed students, right now our graduate residence is full. So B.Ed students would apply through like the regular channels as an undergraduate student would. There is a process where you can request roommates. So in theory, if you know someone else in the program, you could request to be with them. Otherwise, it's just whatever type of residence you apply for, you would get. Okay, there's a couple questions. So that was it for our panelist questions. Now we will turn to our Q&A section here, and there are quite a few that we'll try to tackle here. There's a few on the acceptance rate. So we have about 150 seats. Last year we had about 1,500 applications, so it is a very competitive program. Yeah, anything to add to that?
I would say just keeping in mind that the number of seats and the number of applications, don't get too worried about hearing like that sounds like a 10-to-1 ratio, so
Yeah.
what chance do you have? The fact is that we also put out more offers than we have acceptances because a lot of people get accepted more than one place. So we will accept something like 350 individuals. So it's more like a 3-to-1 ratio between applications and acceptances. Applications that are at the minimum average. So there you'll know if I have the minimum average for that, then that of the all the people with the minimum average who apply, roughly 1 in 3, between that and 1 in 4, somewhere in there, will actually get offers.
Okay, we have two questions about speaking to experience in their profile. One applicant is asking if they can speak to experience and a future experience. Do you recommend that? So someone is starting their placement, fifth placement in January. So I would recommend only speaking to experiences that you have done. So you can speak to the value of what you've taken from these experiences. Yeah, that's my recommendation.
And I guess that comes back to what I was saying about talking about how it's influenced you rather than, telling us you're planning to do something. That's more the checklist of, approach of, oh, I'm going to have this experience. Okay. What we're reading it for is how has it influenced you? And you won't be able to say that until after you've had the experience.
There's a question here from Julianne about alternative settings placements. So you can go on to the easy way for me to tell you this is if you were to go on to trentu.ca/education, you will see a menu item, alternative settings placements, and that lists all of our faculty facilitated placements, and then we also have external placements that are typically in and around the Peterborough community and some of them beyond that we list on our website. We review and students are welcome to try out those other opportunities. And when you look at those opportunities, a lot of them are outside of the classroom because the idea of the alternative settings placement is to really push you to think about how you can apply the skills you've been learning into a different setting, which invariably gives you ideas of what you can bring back into the classroom as well. So the alternative settings placement is one of the pieces that I think a lot of students really love and really remember about their time in the program because it did it did give them that opportunity to just think about differently about all the work and all the practice teaching they had been doing. And in some cases, those alternative settings placements lead to alternate careers in education that are just as meaningful and rewarding, and being able to use those skills in a different way. So yeah, if you go to trentu.ca/education, you'll see the alternative settings placement and some of the opportunities that we have there.
Okay, so there are two questions here I am going to tackle. So there's a question asking whether or not Trent students who have graduated through the teacher education stream have priority acceptance and spot saved. So we do have a guarantee for current teacher education stream students, but they do have to be in their fourth year, and they do have to maintain a minimum 85% on their last 10 credits when they apply. If they don't and they've graduated, then they are considered with all other applicants, and no special priorities given, but they do have, they can utilize the experience and the foundational knowledge they had from the teacher education stream in their application, in their profile of experience. And then there was another question again about grades. So your GPA will be calculated using the grades available to us at the time of application. Unfortunately, your fourth year, if you're in progress of your fourth year, we won't be able to use any of those grades, basically anything that's completed as of now and before. So if you're in your fourth year, we're likely looking at your second and third year.
Switching gears in terms of your practicums and where you do those longer blocks of teaching in the classroom, and the question is around, can we get a placement closer to home? And so one of the things that we always say, that we can never guarantee your placement and getting that close to your home, because there are a lot of variables. It's not just us that go and get to just place you wherever you wish. A lot of it we lean on our partner school boards, and from school to school, from principal to principal, there's always different things happening in moving depending on the climate of that area and what's happening in the school board and throughout. So with all of that said, we say we can't guarantee it, but when you come into the program, we have your information. We know where you are residing during the program. You indicate that, and you have that chance to say, hey, I'd love to have a placement, close to this spot where I'm going to be living. And our placement coordinator certainly does their best job to make sure that you can have that opportunity to be closer to home. And for the most part, it does work out. But that doesn't work out for every single person, right? There's, we're talking about placing, close to 400 students into 4 different placements over 2 years, and that's a lot of teachers and a lot of schools and a lot of moving parts. So again, it's not a guarantee, but we certainly try and do our best to make sure that you are closer to home, so that is certainly easier for you in terms of whatever your transportation situation might be like. But in any case where you aren't close to home, and maybe it is a transportation issue, rest assured, again, going back to some of my comments about why this program is so great, is that you get to know a lot of the people in your program very quickly, and there are cohorts of students that go to the same school for their placement. So you're able to figure out, carpooling and different scenarios there to help you get to the school if transportation is an issue.
There was a question related to science versus arts degree. I can just take that one briefly here. That the for your if you have a science degree you're applying to, we do recognize that there averages may be different in that, and often tougher to get the same grades as with an arts degree. You do need to have the minimum still meet the minimum average for the application to be considered. So that's not going to change with the arts or the science degree. But once you're sort of past that hurdle, effectively in the way that we approach the process and balance the scores, the reading scores become a more significant weighting factor in terms of, its influence on the process. Um, and additional to that, if you're applying at the IS level, then we will specifically consider your teaching subjects. So, those applying to areas that we have more need of, which typically will include math, physics, chemistry, not as much biology, but to a degree, in FMI studies and French. So those in those areas, even if your averages are a bit lower, that will often be something that actually won't hurt you as much because of the fact that we're sort of counterbalancing that with an extra priority weighting on having those areas. So, if you're at the PJ level, that process doesn't influence as much, but for the IS, for a science degree, again, if you are applying to one of those teaching subjects in high demand, then that would offset that factor.
Is anyone able to give some suggestions if applicants feel they don't have enough experience? Any suggestions on where we can find volunteer opportunities?
If I can just go back to what Adrian said, that it's different experiences. It could be work experiences that you've had. It doesn't need to, it could be like Rich said, you could be managing people. Maybe you're in a leadership position. We've had people that were golf instructors, and they didn't think about that as being education, but it really was. They did a golf camp, and managers at Tim Hortons. If you're looking for those school things, what people have commented on is yes, going to your local school and asking if you can be assisting and volunteer, I think is a great way for that education base. But we don't just limit it to that. It's how you connect your experiences to learning.
Alrighty, I think we pretty well answered all the questions.
Caitlin,
One last
there was a question that was a follow-up to one from earlier. They were asking about supplementary questions as part of the profile. I don't know if you did address this and I missed that or
So, there within the profile, there are two main sections, right? There's the experience listing, and this will just ask you to list 5 experiences, like we've said. Do a little resume blurb for each, explaining what you were up to in the experience, where it was, your role, all that jazz. The second main part is the critical reflection, which we've been speaking to, and reflecting on your experiences. Beyond that, there is no additional questions that we ask for assessment. We do ask for the references, contact information in the profile, but that's it. That's no additional questions beyond that. Alrighty. Well, if no one else has any questions, I think that brings us just about to our end. I will say thank you very much to our panelists for coming and sharing all your knowledge and your passion for the program. Thank you to all of our guests for joining us. Tonight's session has been recorded, and we will post this to our 2025-2026 live stream webpage, likely the webpage that you accessed it through originally. So please feel free to revisit the session if you would like to check back in on something or check out some of our other live streams. I did post some helpful links in the chat there. Just a reminder that the application will close on December 1st, which is only a month away. So I do recommend getting that in as soon as you are able, just so you can get all the other stuff sorted. And I also welcome you to visit us for our fall open house. This is happening next Friday. link to that and information on that is in the chat as well. And if you aren't able to attend open house, we do also run tours of campus 6 days a week. Both open house and the tours are a great chance to come out and see our beautiful campus. And yeah, I encourage you to do that. If you have more questions after tonight's session, please reach out. My email, I put it in the chat. I can be reached at educationadmissions@trentu.ca, and I would be very happy to help with any and all questions you have. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us.